We are back with roundtable discussion. My name is Dr. Mary Bell, and I'm here with the Enterprises. Also joining us, we have Tamia and Dee from Atlanta that's on the line. So we're here having a discussion. We got Darlene, we got Dr. Sherry, we got Michael, we got Daryl, Latoria, and Kelly, and the two, Tamia and Dee, on the line. Welcome, everyone.
Hello there. Hello there.
Hello. So in this roundtable discussion, we want to talk a little bit about our workforce development. So of course, we just want to throw just a couple of questions out there at the enterprise, because I'm just hoping that everyone can help out with providing some type of tips and some discussion about what they would do. So I want to talk a little bit about virtual interview. If you were doing a virtual interview, what time is the best time to show up for that interview?
15 minutes, I believe 15 minutes before the interview. And the reason I say that is because you want to sign in, look over the whoever you're interviewing with, get some background, and then get some background on the company. You could go and see if some interns were in there and find out a little bit about the company. And then you want to be prompt, on time.
I agree with Darlene. However, the reason I would sign on 15 minutes prior to the interview to make sure that there are no technical issues. Because you have to be able to, and then also for the person that's being interviewed.
Right.
Because you want to be able to make sure that they can hear you. You want to be able to, internet can go down. It's a number of things that can occur. So that's one of the reasons why I do support signing on for 15 minutes earlier prior to the interview.
I also agree with Darlene and Sherry, and that's why I'm going to say 45 minutes. Get yourself together, washroom, whatever you need to do. Take 45 minutes. Make sure everybody get comfortable with their nerves, get settled down. You have to drive in or walk in from somewhere, your heart beating a little bit, you're racing, your mind is racing, getting a new atmosphere, you need to settle into the atmosphere.
So that's a good one, honey, because we're talking about that. That's if your in-person interview, which is good too. And that's great. That's a great tip, 45 minutes, because we are sometimes running late, and you get time to relax. Once you get to drive up to the place, to know where you're going, and then you're relaxing before the interview.
You always need to adjust.
That makes sense.
But I agree with the signing in early, but 45 minutes I feel is just a little long, especially for virtual.
Yeah.
Now, if it's an in-person,
Yes.
I'm always for getting there early, taking care of business. But virtual, me personally, I would say 10 minutes. I feel 15 is okay, but it's stretching a little bit because in 15 minutes, in 10 minutes, you got the opportunity to make sure all the technical things are worked out. 15 minutes, just like anything you do, you sitting there a little bit too long. You're getting antsy. You want to get to it right off the back, and I think 10 is that stretch for people because 15 minutes, and all of a sudden you get into that 15 minutes time. Say it's supposed to start 13, 14 minutes. Now all of a sudden, I gotta go to the bathroom now. 10 minutes, you guys gonna sit there and let's get it over with.
But let me share this with you because we were virtual for almost 2 years.
Correct.
Right.
And trust me, you sign on 10 minutes before and you at home, internet service is never failed. We were getting kicked out, logged in. So that's why that 15, 20 minutes is that comfort zone. It's not for you to actually be sitting there,
Right.
but you're online, you're there, and you're able to address that because, and you can be online, and the system will shut down.
Right.
It will shut down on you in the middle, and I'm just using that experience from being online, teaching, and students can't log in for whatever reason. Teachers, we were always getting kicked out.
Right.
So you'll be surprised at what occurs when you try to have a Zoom call, a Zoom interview.
And most of the time when you're
very true. I just wanted to kind of summarize everything that everyone was saying. I talked to Mary before about virtual interviews. And just to summarize, we put together some tips for the virtual interview. And testing the equipment to make sure everything is ready, set, go, definitely takes way more than 10 or 15 minutes. I want to use today as an example. You have to prepare ahead of time to make sure that there are no technicalities.
Right.
So to make sure your Zoom is set up, you want to make sure the space in your background is clear and able to function in the appropriate, needed way for that particular interview. So your background, your lighting, make sure your microphone is right, the camera. You want to make sure even the clothing that you plan on wearing for that interview, how is it going to show up and come across on camera? For example, if you do black and white with stripes or lines, it gives you, I think they call it a maha effect, where it looks like it's moving, and that can be a distraction in an interview. So you want to do this maybe a day ahead of time to know what you're going to look like, what space you're going to use, and to make sure you have all the required material ready to go for that interview. And you want to make sure your house is clear. You don't want a child running into the background, needing mom or a spouse to come in the background talking to you while you're preparing for this interview as well.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is because we're talking about individuals looking for jobs.
Right.
Okay, and so therefore you're saying, yeah, you know the basics that you have to prepare for that interview. But again, technical issues, I guarantee you will occur.
Absolutely.
I don't care how advanced your internet services are. I don't care how advanced, how much preparing you did 3 days prior. You were on Zoom calls prior. Something will occur the day of. Again, you can have the best. I can only go off of my experience where we would even have, example, I had AT&T. I would have them to come out to make sure because, hey, in the middle of a class session, I'm dropping. And I had the highest speed there. Some of the other teachers, Comcast, Johnson, can you stay in with the classroom because I have to log out. This was constantly happening. Even with some of the students, we were sending, their parents had to come up to pick up internet packages along with their computers. It happened. And then you're talking about an individual who's searching for a job. Do they have all of this? So the reason I interjected with your summary, Samia, is because maybe the library might be something that you would have to source out if you're going to have a virtual interview.
Right.
So these are all the things that you can put out as to what can happen, what has happened, share best practices, and it sounds as if you all have already discussed this and went in depth with some things to prepare individuals, whether it's virtual or in person.
Right.
Because the day before, if you were going in an office setting for an interview, you're going to make sure your clothes are right.
Right.
I would suspect and hope, would pray that you would do the same if you were virtual.
So we can go on and on with this because I know everybody has an opinion. But what is
Go
ahead,
Dr. Mary. One thing, the technical is very important, and one thing I'm sure everybody has had this happen to them. Virtual meeting or interview.
Right.
What time of day is best? Because
That's right.
I noticed with the internet, like certain times of day, that's when you get all the dropper because everybody is on. So that's a very important part to figure out what time of day should these interviews be occurring that, some of the technical issues would be knocked out of there right away just because of the proper time. But, that's just something because, as my wife works and certain times of day, it just gets slow no matter what because everybody's on it at that time.
Put weather in there too.
Right. Oh, weather is a very important factor.
Counting what the weather might be that day.
Yes. But we can go on and on. One of my experiences has been the camera. So a lot of people will start an interview and not really test their camera. So therefore, when the virtual interview or virtual meeting is starting, your camera's not working. So those are some of the challenges that I have seen. Reason I do agree with everything everyone has said. If it's a virtual or in-person, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, signing on prior. But you're going to be sitting in a waiting room most of the time if it's a virtual meeting until that person actually accepts you into the meeting. So that's important and that's something to consider. But be prepared and have that camera in front of you and be ready to start. Not just that, but on top of that, just having a pad and paper in front of you and being able to take notes that, if they're asking you questions, have your resume in front of you, or if this is a business meeting, have your information in front of you so that you can cover that information. I always tell people when you're interviewing, have your resume in front of you so when when the manager asks you a question, you're not trying to think about it, it is actually in front of you so that you can have that, those resources and that information. I have another question for you, and this is either if you're going on in-person or if you are doing a virtual. When you're having a interview with someone, what is the most important about the company that you would really want if you were starting at a new company? Would benefits be important? Would stability be important? Or where you're going to sit in the office is important. So I'm going to start on this side with Kelly first because I want to hear your opinion about that.
Well, there's a couple of things that are going to stick out to me. What is my position going to be? What am I doing? Of course, salary. I'm going to brand. My husband has very good benefits, so the option of that being available is good, but I have backup for that. And I want to know also what are my opportunities of growth? Am I just going to be stagnant? Am I staying there? Is this going to be just a temporary position? Am I going to be able to continue to grow? Is it going to be a longevity position, or is it just for, a season? Those are some of the things that I'm going to look at. And then also, like right now, I work from home, and with the COVID season going on, that. But we also look at, am I going to be driving? Is there going to be a distance? Am I going to be in need to be around people? Am I going to be in physical contact? These are all different things that are, part of right off what I'm looking for when I'm looking at a job, if that has been offered to me.
Absolutely. That's good. Victoria? I agree with Kelly. All of those are key factors when interviewing for a job. Salary.
Stability, benefits,
all of those come in account. You must have good benefits.
Well, I don't know how to answer that. For me, with me being up in age and working at multi-billion companies in the workforce, one thing that's very important to me if I'm looking for another job is workforce balance, life balance. Yeah. Because a lot of companies are still sticking with, no, you got to be here. They don't care if you have a parent you have to take care of. I need a place of business who is, yes, and they're considerate and they care, they emphasize with situations like that. Because there's a lot of companies out there that don't. Yes, salaries and benefits is good, but it's also a cultural background. They're diverse. I want diversity in the corporation now, which I have, and I'm happy to be at that company.
I think one thing that lots have not really said, and I think is important to everybody these days because of prices of gas, location.
That's true.
I mean, if you got to travel, you don't want to be having to work somewhere that's an hour and 45 minutes away from you. It's ridiculous these days. So that's something that, kind of location helps. Now, at home, perfect. But location, I think, is key because What's the reason to get this job that might be paying you a decent salary if 1/4 of that salary going into getting there every day?
Well, that's one of the things that I did. Remember, I was 7 minutes from my home, and I took a job downtown, but
every day.
I only have to go into the office 3 days a week, but I can walk a half a block, get on the train, pay $6 a day for 3 rides. So I'm still winning, because if I was going to go to another company and, like you said, work 30, 40 minutes away, I'm spending, what, $75, $80 to fill up?
Yeah.
So I think it works out for me.
Right, and I think if this question was asked of you prior to 2017, it would have been salary.
Yeah.
No ifs and buts about it, and benefits. I am so relaxed in my new position, and so I'm not there because of the salary. I love the benefits. I love the time out. I think I heard Darlene say, how this company, coming from that corporate background for 32 years. Yeah. How can
And what is that position?
I just want to tell you, I did not know I was stressed until the first night my phone was not vibrating, meaning you have an email and I open the email or I got a text message from one of my employees. I never knew I was stressed because I stayed with the company for 32 years. Mm-hmm. Now, when I go to work, I show up and I leave. And
Yeah.
I love it.
And what kind of work is that?
Teaching diverse learners. So I have 8th graders, 4 students. I leave.
You don't take
When
work
it's
home.
time to wipe out, I leave. There's no work at home. So to me, and I'm passionate about that. Yeah. Because I have had opportunities to get back into corporate America. I refuse. Because I have days off, and I have summer off. Yeah. The days off throughout the school year I get paid for. The only thing I miss is the vacation time. Of course, I had like 8 weeks of vacation. Never used all that time, but I was not, in order for me to go back into a corporate position, I mean, the money, no. What I'm hearing from Dr. Sherry is balance. That's what I'm hearing. Balance. All right.
That's what I'm
Michael?
Well, the key for me would be, everything everybody said, especially what Daryl said, distance, money and balance, the whole 9 yards. The real key for me, because I haven't had it for a while, is weekends. I do not want to work weekends. I'm a golfer. I want to be golfing.
It has to be known.
Can we hear from Ms. Cruz, who has her own business?
Yes.
Samia?
Thank you.
Speaking, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was listening, but I gotta agree, just like with Darlene and Sherry, I think balance is first and foremost, especially in our age group.
Yeah.
You ain't up there with him.
Yeah, got all the
Yeah.
And then with the younger generation now, that's what they're looking for. They don't want to come into the office. They don't want to crash anyway. They don't want to work. They don't want to work. They don't want to work no long period of time. They want Starbucks. So let's ask this. Go ahead, Doctor.
Dr. Mary, so we've asked this as on an employee side, and then on the employer side, what would you be looking for as you're making those? And now we're going to.
And I'm going to ask you business owner, Samia. Kelly has a question for you.
Okay, great.
as a business owner, and when you have an open position that you're looking for, and you're doing, different interviews, what are some of the qualities that you look for when you're doing that interview that you specifically look for, or that are key factors that turn you off and say, no, this is not somebody immediately that I'm gonna look for, or somebody, or on the opposite side, somebody, yes, that I think will be able to, fit the position that I'm looking for?
Now, that's a great question, Kelly. I don't know if I've ever been challenged that way. Usually I'm judging other people, so that's a good one. But, what we do with the transportation, and we're on one right now, so you know, nobody knows. But what we do with transportation, I'm always looking for somebody who's reliable. So anybody who shows up to one of the interviews already an hour late, 45 minutes late, looking disheveled, it is a no. Because you're going to do that same thing, I feel, when you're hired. And for what we do, reliability and punctuality is the number one thing we look for. So I really look for something like that. The funny thing is, I don't worry about what somebody wears because I think that's something that can be guided. I know we spend a lot of time when we're interviewing for corporate America, type that person who presents themselves in appearance. Whereas for this blue collar work, I don't so much about what they wear because I think that they can kind of shape when they get an understanding of what the job entails.
Ms. Cruz, can I ask? What about if someone showed up with their pants hanging down?
So yeah, and because I think a younger generation seems to think it's okay, and so I'll move forward with them, but I'll explain to them that you can't do that with us.
Okay.
Now, what you do once you clock out, you'll get back. But here, I need those pants pulled up, and usually they're receptive of it.
Okay.
Usually they're receptive of it. Now, some workers you have to remind them a couple of times because you have to present yourself once the customer home, but we kind of, and when you tap them on the shoulder and you remind them, like, hey, not this, in that moment, they'll correct it.
Okay.
That's the mind.
hard to transport them with the pants down anyway, right?
It's so people happy.
Right.
They go to tap on the shoulder and be like, hey, you can't do this and you can't do that. Then they're pretty much okay. But if you give me some reliability and you're pretty punctual, and you still have a basic understanding, I think for the most part, other things can be taught. Most jobs, unless there's something specific that you're hired for, but most things can kind of be taught, and they get the culture based around the other people they're working with. They start realizing, oh, that's not tolerated here. Oh, I can't do this here.
Okay, well, thank you. Any other questions or anything that anyone want to discuss before we close out?
Just one, because Camille brought up something about having her workers be reliable, punctual, dependable, and then I think Kelly, Victoria said something about young adults. Mm-hmm. And so my question is, how do you feel, because I have opinions, what we're used to, they're not used to, and how I think Camille kind of talked to her, that you hiring for different positions, what are some of the challenges that you have faced?
Okay. Well, I hired been in staffing for over 16 years, those of you who know me. And so we hire for different industries. So I talk to a lot of different people from different backgrounds. So one of the things that I'm faced with, of course, is, and I'm going to throw this out here, is some of the young people, it's like they don't really, like, if they don't want a position, they do not, like, come back and let you know. They tend to ghost you. Or if they decide to leave a position, instead of resigning, they tend to just quit.
Yes.
So, us being old school, I try to coach my young people on how to resign properly from a job. always say, grass is not always green on the other side, and don't burn your bridges, what Mama never used to say to us. I've learned how to leave a job where a manager might think about me a year later, and or if I would needed a reference, they'll say, hey, call Mary Bell, because she's great.
Right.
So one of the things that I have been working, especially in this industry, being in staffing for over 16 years, is coaching individuals about how to resign. If you decide to decline a position, do it professionally. Don't just ghost me. Don't call me back. And then you might have another position that you accepted, but you didn't know how to tell me no. But then 2 weeks later, you don't like that job. Now you want to call me and you want to tell me, Miss Mary, I really wanted that job. Well, it's too late now, because Miss Mary, remember how you treated the position, and you know it's all about your demeanor and how help me out, you guys, how you come across. Communication skills. So it's very important. Yes, it's the respect.
It's a whole other level now than it was when we were younger coming up.
Right.
Different.